Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 399 of Better Than Before Breast Cancer. Can't believe I'm coming up on episode 400. I'm so excited. I can't wait to share that episode with you too. But today, we're going to talk about something that I think it's such an important message because I work with so many women who live in this divide between their psycho spiritual, emotional wellness and their physical wellness. And it's so interesting to me. And I think that our society and our culture has, created kind of this divide between the body and mind, right? We call it mind body. And we look at them as two separate things, as if our physical body has nothing to do with our mental, emotional, psycho-spiritual state of being. And they could not be more intertwined. I think about my own work, a breast cancer recovery coach. I think about the certifications, the education that I have, right? Health coach, nutrition coach. I have a degree in healthy life sciences and healthy lifestyle coaching. And I think to me, that just doesn't capture it. Like it doesn't say enough because what is life coaching? What is healthy lifestyle coaching? Does your mind go straight to food? That's all about food and exercise. When we think about group support and I talk about my Better Than Before breast cancer membership, a lot of people think, oh, that's just a session where people come together to complain about cancer. And believe me, I know there's those groups out there. This is not one of them. The interesting thing is that we just don't bring together this fact, and I want to state it very clearly. Without physical wellness, you are not let me restate that. Without optimal physical wellness, you are not going to have optimal emotional wellness, and the other way around. There is something that I used to think, as someone who was a personal trainer, a clinical Ayurveda specialist, a yoga teacher, someone very rooted in the physical aspects of exercise and the physical benefits of exercise, that I used to think you just develop a plan, you commit to the plan, you do the exercise, you eat the foods, you get well. And that didn't happen. For me, that didn't happen. And then over the years, so I was first diagnosed with cancer in 2011. So it's coming up on 14 years. That's just so wild to me. But in 14 years, one thing I know is that if you do not love yourself, if you cannot prioritize your needs, if you cannot take the hour to prep your food, the 5 minutes to do some breath work every day, the 10 minutes to do a journaling exercise, invest the, I don't know, $100 a month in a massage, the $97 a month in a coaching program, like something in yourself, go to a therapist, to get a personal trainer, like invest in yourself a small amount. We don't do those things if we don't love ourselves. And we tell ourselves, and I hear this story all the time. My kids need that. My husband needs that. My mom and dad need this. I have a lot of clients who are that in the middle kind of thing where their kids have become adults or their kids are older teenagers, but now their parents need their help. And so all of their time, all their energy, their money goes to someone else. And in doing that, they make themselves sick because they're not rested. They're not getting the right amount of sleep. They're not hydrated. They're not eating nourishing foods. We're buffering with sugar and flour and alcohol and overspending and all the things. We have to get into our head the fact that physical and energetic, psycho, spiritual, emotional, mental wellness have to come together. We have to have a healthy gut if we want to have a healthy mind. And I'll work with people, or I'll just meet people who talk about, or here's a perfect example. I will get new clients who reach out to me. They want to work with me. They're going to set up an appointment and they tell me a little bit about themselves. And I often hear this: I'm very healthy. I have a healthy, happy life. I eat good food, right? I have a generally overall good health. And then they'll fill out some of the questionnaires, some more information on themselves before we meet. And I'll hear things like, I don't sleep. I stress. I worry. I have chronic constipation. And there'll be a litany of things that they list. And I think to myself, that's so fascinating that this person doesn't think that that's a problem, right? They don't think that that's not an overall healthy life. Like something's not working here in this system, right? Something's broken here. A lot of people tell me I had the happiest life ever before my diagnosis. I was active socially. I was exercising every day. I had great friends. I loved my life. And then I got a cancer diagnosis. And then we dig into it and they say, well, I mean, I was eating a lot of junk food and I wasn't sleeping and I had a lot of trauma and I shut down my emotions. And again, it's like there's this gap here, and we don't realize that all this emotional trauma or all of this gut dysbiosis unsettles the mind. And the unsettled mind turns to things that unsettle the physical body. So I want to dig into this because I know some of the side effects from breast cancer treatment that I think we kind of take for granted are mood, right? Our changing mood, fluctuating mood. We can have depression, we can have anxiety, a lot of worry, definitely sleep, insomnia, fluctuating energy levels, feeling groggy, feeling irritable. We get thrown into chemically induced menopause. And we can go through these situations where we feel bloated, then we feel constipated, we have an upset stomach, we have nausea, and we don't realize that what that is your gut and brain in constant communication with each other, your gut and brain saying something's out of balance. And when something is out of balance in one, it's going to be felt in the other one. If it's out of balance in the body, it's going to be felt in the mind. We don't think about like your life and the happiest times in your life. Have you ever been super sick, physically ill, and just been super joyful and happy and inspired and motivated? Hell no. Have you ever been super depressed and sad or traumatized and grief stricken and thought, wow, I'm just so excited to make a healthy salad and go for an exercise session today? No, we want to curl up in bed under a blanket and be alone and withdraw. So, I want to talk about how we support this connection between our mental, emotional, psycho spiritual wellness and our physical wellness and why they have to go together and how deeply intertwined they are. So, I'm going to start talking about it from the perspective of something I'm sure you've heard about and maybe you haven't heard of all these probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, and psychobiotics. And psychobiotics is really what I want to touch on here because I think that psychobiotics and even the field of nutritional psychology is what brings together this message I'm trying to send. Psychobiotics tells us, psycho, right, part of the psychology, and the biotics is the part that's going to be in our gut. But when we use food and we use food in the right way and we create these psychobiotics in our gut, we improve our mental and emotional wellness. So let's talk about what these things are and how they can help you feel the way you want to feel, how they can help you feel well, how they can help you when we address these things in our body. We can help our mind and we can have an overall more joyful life. So let me first describe to you very briefly what are pre, post, pro, and psychobiotics. So probiotics, you've heard this, right? We take probiotic supplements a lot of times. We talk about probiotic foods. Probiotics are live beneficial bacteria that help balance your gut microbiome. They're found in fermented foods like yogurt, kimchi, and kefir. Prebiotics, these are the fibers and the nutrients that feed that good living gut bacteria. Think about in our gut, we have trillions of live bacteria. That there's so many critters living in us. It's fascinating to think about. And prebiotics are like the fertilizer. They're the food for them. Prebiotics are going to be in foods like garlic and onions and leeks. Prebiotic foods feed those wonderful live beneficial bacteria in our gut. Postbiotics, these are byproducts of probiotic activity. So that means that we eat foods that are high in probiotics and they go into the gut and the bacteria interact with them and the chemicals and the whole digestive process interact with them and the enzymes and all that. And they make byproducts. And these byproducts are things like short chain fatty acids. And what they do is help to reduce inflammation in the body and support gut health. Why do we want that? Why do we want lower inflammation? We know that inflammation is basically the root of all disease. And according to Ayurveda, all disease begins in the gut. And Western science is starting to catch on to this. And this is that field of nutritional psychology, which is so fascinating. Books by Dr. Chris Palmer, like Brain Energy, that dig into this and dig into when we can love ourselves enough to put energy into nourishing our body with good whole foods in the right way as we need them, right? Because our needs are going to change and fluctuate over the course of our life, then it supports our mental, emotional wellness. So then we have psychobiotics. These are a class of probiotics that specifically support mental and emotional health because they influence neurotransmitters like serotonin. Remember that word, because we're going to talk about it again. Serotonin and GABA. These are neurotransmitters that give us good feelings and calmness. Okay. So each of these types of biotics, pro, pre, post, and psycho, play a different role in our gut and in our gut brain connection. And I want to talk to you about how to use them in real life because your health isn't just about what's in a bottle. So if you pick up a bottle of probiotics and you pop a couple of pills, that's just not going to cut it, right? We've got to be much more intentional. It's about how we feel every day, what we do for ourselves in the most consistent way. And I'm going to give you a link because I created a handout to support you in this. When I talk about mostly anything to do with nutrition and we have to make lifestyle changes, people say to me, I get it, I understand it, but where do I start? What do I do? And so if we can start with thinking about how do I support the health of my gut? Well, I'm going to give you some simple steps. So I've got a guide that you can download. You just go to the breastcancerrecoverycoach.com/gut, or you scroll down where you're watching this video or listening to this podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe too. But if you scroll down, you're going to see a link to this handout on how to support your gut health. Download it. I'm going to give you 6 simple steps to follow. I'm going to give you 10 of the easiest recipes. Super, super, super simple. Clean, easy, simple that you can make in 15 minutes to support your gut health. A list of 20 foods that are 20 of the most beneficial foods that you can put into your gut. So I'm breaking this down for you in the podcast. I'm breaking it down for you in the guide. And I want you to download that guide and just see how easy it can be and how to support yourself. But the most important thing is that we don't have to accept feeling like shit as something normal. Bloating, heartburn, indigestion, constipation, diarrhea, alternating constipation and diarrhea. This is not how your body is supposed to work. This is your body saying something's off. I need some support. And this is how we give you the support you need, right? So think about this scenario. You finish a round of antibiotics. When we go through cancer treatment, oftentimes we get antibiotics because if we're in chemotherapy, our white blood cells drop. We can get infections, and they're hyper vigilant about any kind of infection or bacterial, flus, and if we get COVID, anything like that, right? So a lot of times doctors will put us on antivirals or antibiotics. So think about finishing a round of antibiotics and you start to feel better from whatever it was you were sick with, but now you've got bloating and you've got constipation. Maybe your skin is breaking out. I think a lot of people don't realize that whatever is happening on their skin is such a true reflection of what's going on inside their body and especially in their gut. When I meet people and I can see the texture of their skin and the color of their skin is off, I know that they need gut support. When we do things like take antibiotics because we need to, right? Because we've got some kind of infection or illness and we may need that support, it can be frustrating because it's almost like trading one problem for the other, right? Trading some kind of a bacterial infection for now this dysbiosis in the gut. And that's because antibiotics don't just kill off bad bacteria, the ones that cause the infection to begin with or the illness, but they wipe out the good bacteria too. And that's where probiotics come in. They help to repopulate your gut with beneficial microbes. they start to restore the balance and improve digestion. And the best way to get probiotics is through food. So here's an interesting thing to think about. When we have gut dysbiosis, an imbalance in the gut, all of these living bacteria in our gut, they need certain foods, right? We talked about that, prebiotics. They eat certain foods. So when we have unhealthy living bacteria in our gut, they send a signal for the kind of food they want, which most of the time is refined carbohydrates, is going to drive us to sugar cravings or carbohydrate cravings, or things that we think of as comfort food or treats, right? But we have to recognize that that is a signal from unhealthy bacteria. Because as people say, and if you've ever gone through a period in your life where you followed what you feel is a really good program of clean eating, you will notice that you don't get these cravings for sugar, that you don't. And in fact, there might be lots of times when you see, highly refined foods, cakes, cookies, sweetened things, that you look and go, that just doesn't even sound good. Or you think, well, that does sound good. And then you take a bite of something and say, oh my God, that just totally affected your body. You took a break from it, and now you can see the effect that it actually has on you. Because sometimes when we've followed a poor diet or we've had an unhealthy gut for a long time, we begin to think that's just the normal way to feel. And we get used to feeling crappy. And then we think it's normal. Okay. But it isn't. So these foods, when we notice that we've got any of these kind of symptoms, bloating, nausea, diarrhea, constipation, just discomfort in the gut, then probiotic foods are going to be very beneficial. One, the first thing we want to do is get rid of the things, remove the things that support the unhealthy gut. So we want to get the sugar out, the alcohol, the flours, the food dyes, the food colorings, the seed oils, the fast food. We want to get that stuff out, at least for a while, right? So we can allow the gut to have space to heal. Then we feed it with things like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir. These things help with digestion. They support immune function. Fermented vegetables support gut and brain health. Just think about this. If it supports health in your gut, it's going to support health in your brain. So if you're saying, I have anxiety, I have depression, I'm worried all the time, let's think about what's going on in the gut. Kefir, there's another powerful probiotic drink that can help to rebuild gut bacteria even faster than yogurt. So we get, and this is not fruit at the bottom yogurt, people. This is full fat. Like my favorite yogurt is full fat Greek yogurt, unsweetened. I do use erythritol in mine. I use a product called Xylo Sweet. It's granulated just like sugar. I'll put like a teaspoon in my yogurt to give it that little sweetness. I'll put a handful of berries on it. Delicious. One of my favorite. One of the things I love to do most: put berries in a pot, cook them down so they're a little compote. Put a little bit of my sweetener in my yogurt and top them with these wonderful fresh berry compote. So good for the gut, probiotic and prebiotic because of the fibers. So good for you. So if you're someone who experiences gut discomfort, especially after antibiotics, or if you have frequent bloating irregularity, then consider adding probiotic foods into your diet. And again, I have a handout. It's going to show you how you can eat and incorporate probiotic foods easily. One of my favorite things, especially when it comes to kimchi, is to take a sweet potato and put kimchi on that sweet potato with, of course, a ton of butter, because what is a sweet potato but a butter delivery system? But I like to add that fat, a little bit of sour cream. So delicious when you add the kimchi to it, because you get the sweetness and you get that fermented vegetable, that little sourness too. All right. So before I go on, because I can talk about food forever if I start going down that road. So let's talk about prebiotics. So we think about, let's get these probiotics, let's get living bacteria down into the gut. And through food first, right? We want to make sure that our diet is nourishing. So then we turn to prebiotics. So you're eating probiotic rich foods, but maybe you still have some gut issues. And sometimes as you begin to incorporate probiotic foods, then you might notice a little more gut discomfort, because think about it. We're changing the flora inside the gut. We're changing from what might be unhealthy bacteria to repopulate with healthy bacteria. Every bacteria in the gut is going to send off a different single signal, a different chemical signal. And so we might have a little bit of discomfort as that gut microbiome is switching over, right? You might feel like you're constantly hungry. You might feel like you're craving sugar. You might struggle with feeling like you have sluggish digestion. And this can mean that even though you've incorporated these probiotic foods, your bacteria aren't getting enough of the fuel they need to feed them. So that's where the prebiotics come in. And these are the fibers that nourish those good bacteria in your gut and help them thrive. Without the prebiotic foods, the probiotic foods don't work as effectively. So let's talk about easy ways to get prebiotic foods into your diet, the food for good bacteria. Garlic and onions. Just about everything I make has garlic and onions in it. Garlic and onions are great for feeding beneficial bacteria and supporting the immune system and immune health. And garlic it's got so many benefits. And it's even anti-parasitic. I mean, it's very powerful. Foods like asparagus, leeks, very rich in prebiotic fiber, and that helps to keep your digestion smooth. Bananas, especially slightly green bananas, provide resistant starch, and gut bacteria love resistant starch. So think of it like this: probiotics are the gardeners, they're the live stuff. Prebiotics are the water and the sunlight that help those live things grow. And you need to keep both in your gut to keep your gut healthy. When you keep your gut healthy, we support the health of our brain. Okay. So now let's talk about something that does not get talked about enough. You may have never even heard of this term: postbiotics. So, why can some people eat all the fiber in the world and feel great, while others feel bloated and uncomfortable? Have you ever turned somebody, you were constipated or you had an irregular elimination and someone said, oh, here, take Metamucil, right? Psyllium husk basically is what that is. And then you got even more backed up. How does that happen? That's because what really makes a difference is how well your gut bacteria break down the fiber. So when your microbiome is healthy, it produces postbiotics. Postbiotics are those compounds I mentioned a minute ago, short chain fatty acids. They help with reducing inflammation, which is key for cancer recovery and overall health. They help strengthen the gut lining, which helps to prevent leaky gut. Leaky gut is when those gaps, because we have nutrients that are going to go through the lining of the gut, but only certain ones. When we have inflammation and we get these bigger gaps in the junctions of those cells that come together in our gut, then larger particles go through those junctions, get into our bloodstream. That's not good. It creates all kinds of problems. That's what happens when we have leaky gut. So these foods also, these short chain fatty acids also support immune function and they help to keep your system resilient. And one of the best ways to increase postbiotics is by eating more fermented and fiber rich foods. So if you've been dealing with chronic inflammation, IBS, poor digestion, this is where very high quality postbiotics can help you. Okay. Now, let's talk about my favorite, these psychobiotics. Because if you've been struggling with anxiety, depression, brain fog, sleep issues, your gut might be at the root of it. Maybe you don't realize that, but you know what? It's not going to hurt to support gut health, to eliminate some foods that create inflammation, to incorporate foods that feed the gut and see, will this help you? So if you feel overwhelmed, you're exhausted, you're snappy, you haven't been sleeping, and even though you think you've been eating healthy, you don't feel quite right. And what you might not realize is that your gut has a huge influence on your brain chemistry. And psychobiotics work by producing neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. These neurotransmitters are chemicals in our body that regulate mood, relaxation, and focus. And some of the best psychobiotic foods, yogurt, because they have lactobacillus rhamnosus JB1. You're going to remember that? But that bacteria helps to reduce stress and anxiety. Kimchi and sauerkraut, again, lower inflammation, which improves mood. Kefir increases gut bacteria, which influences serotonin production. Serotonin is that feel good chemical. Miso, I love miso soup. It's a fermented soybean paste that stabilizes mood. Dark chocolate, 85% or higher, not filled with sugar, can also support gut bacteria to help regulate stress hormones. You ever had a good piece of dark chocolate? It's like, oh, feels better. So if you're dealing with mood swings, high stress, restless sleep, incorporating these foods will help to bring balance to both your gut and your mind. And why will some of these foods have such a big impact on our mind? Well, I mentioned a minute ago serotonin, neurotransmitters, dopamine. We think about these as neurotransmitters, as chemicals in the brain that make us feel good. A lot of people take antidepressants and they think about it affecting just their brain. But 90 to 95% of serotonin is produced in our gut. Most of our immune reactions start in the gut. It is so important for us to keep our gut healthy so that we feel well on so many different levels. Okay. And so food first is always my philosophy because there's so much most of us can do to clean up food and support ourselves with good nutrition. And because food is safe, food is bioavailable if we're improving our body's ability to absorb the nutrients in food. And so food first is the best place to start. But there are times when supplements can be necessary. And so some of the times that you might consider, and I'm not saying go out and take a bunch of supplements, start with food first, download the guide, use the guide to help yourself. But you might consider a probiotic or psychobiotic supplement if you've recently taken antibiotics and you need to restore your gut health, right? Your gut's taken a big hit. Definitely food, though, you've got to support it with the right foods. If you struggle with chronic digestive issues and they aren't improving, even though you feel like you've got a good diet, if you're dealing with a lot of high stress and anxiety, and you want additional gut brain support because, friends, stress is a toxin. Okay. Stress will affect you. It will affect your neurotransmitters. It will affect inflammation in your body. It will have a huge impact. So, in high stress or anxiety, you're eating well. Maybe if you're not feeling 100% and you need a little more support, probiotic or psychobiotic supplement can help with that. If you have a history of gut infections, IBS, or a leaky gut, probiotics can be something that could give you more support. So, what do we look at when choosing probiotic supplement? We want a supplement that has multiple strains of beneficial bacteria. So, when you look at the label, the more strains, the more variety, the better. And the more live cultures, the better. We'll see billions of live cultures. Make sure there's no sugar, that sometimes people make supplements if they're not good quality, they're super cheap, check them. Look for additives, look for fillers, look for sugars. We don't want to put that in our gut. All right. In summary, your gut and your brain are deeply connected. Your mental wellness and your physical wellness are about so much more than food. But when we support the health of the gut, we can support the health of the brain. When we support the health of the brain, we can get ourselves to a place where we can feel better about processing deeply held and negative emotions, improving positive emotions in our life, taking the steps to love ourselves, to believe in our self worth, to create the time to nourish our body. What a loving act to prepare fresh whole foods to feed yourself. Such a loving act. And taking care of the gut or the brain automatically supports the other one. So whether you start by adding one probiotic food a day, increasing your fiber intake, focusing on gut healthy meals like you'll find in my guide, small steps can make a huge difference in your energy, in your mood, in your resilience. So download the guide that I've created. Use it to see what are common foods that are easy to eat and super beneficial. Like my recipes are so easy. They're 3 or 4 ingredients and it's literally just throw these together and eat them. They're going to be so good for you, right? Super, super simple because it can be easy to support yourself. A lot of times when people think about healing the gut, changing the diet, we go straight to, oh my God, that's so much work. But what if I could offer you a different perspective and say, oh my God, that is such a loving act that I cannot wait to do for myself. How wonderful it will be to go to bed when your stomach isn't upset and you don't have heartburn and you don't have to prop yourself up on pillows because you can't lay flat anymore. That you don't and sit down and enjoy a lovely meal and then feel sick afterwards, right? That you don't feel constipated and what a miserable feeling that is, right? What a tremendous act of love to heal your gut and support the wellness of your brain, to choose the things that nourish your body and to continue to show your brain over and over again. that you are a priority, that you deserve to be a priority, that you're worth being a priority, and that nothing in this amazing body of yours exists in a silo or works in a silo. So it all comes together, and we have to think, how do I support this body in its totality? Right? What are simple things I can do so it doesn't feel overwhelming? It doesn't have to be super expensive. It can just be just the right things strategically placed to support your overall wellness and support your body's ability to heal. So download the guide, learn a little more about pro, pre, post, and psychobiotic foods, learn how to incorporate them in your diet, and try them out. Just see, even think about a week. Can you do a week where you say to yourself, for 1 week, I'm going to eat all whole foods. I'm not going to have any fast food. I'm not going to have any refined food. And I'm going to see how I feel. You be your own N of one. I love to test things on myself, right? I'm always my own clinical trial. So become your own clinical trial with food and see how much improving and nourishing the health of your gut can improve the way your brain feels, your energy feels, and the quality of your life feels. And if you really want to dig in more to supporting your ability to heal, to understand how your body works, please go to my website, thebreastcancerrecoverycoach.com. Click on coaching and programs and choose a metabolic health coaching plan. Let's look at your labs. Let's look at your nutrition genome. Let's look at how your body is responding to food and what foods specifically can support you, as well as what other lifestyle practices that genetically your body might need to support the healthy expression of your genes and then the healthiest version of your wellness, right? The breastcancerrecoverycoach.com, coaching and programs, or here where you're listening to this podcast, just scroll down and click on the link. You will feel amazing when you empower yourself to love yourself enough to nourish your body. It's such an amazing thing to move into the place where a healthy lifestyle isn't work, but an act of love. And to just start really seeing things through a different lens and just appreciating how amazing it is to sleep well, to feel well, to eliminate well, to not have brain fog every afternoon, to just feel good. And I know it's within your reach. All right, friends, download the guide, check it out. Come and find me on Facebook and Instagram as the Breast Cancer Recovery Coach and DM me and tell me what you think. Ask me your questions and let me know if you followed the guide, how it helped you. All right, I can't wait to hear from you. And I'll talk to you again next week in episode 400. So excited for that. Take care.